I'm building someone else's dream. I'm not even getting paid well, like I'm like, what I'm doing, So I actually start getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning before my 9 o'clock that I have to go to the office and start doing stuff. I start reaching out to people, start doing my landing pages, everything. And then after 5 o'clock, I started doing the same, learning something, reading something, because I knew I need to plan. How can I get into personal growth, first of all? Work on myself, right? Warren Buffett said the biggest investment that he's done, the best one, isn't himself. So if you can work on yourself first, not blame this and system and education and government and politics. There are heroic situations where people were born in very difficult, challenging situations and they still made something of themselves. The grit and determination and ambition and standing for something. These things you should develop. You should evolve all the time. That's why if you're not growing, you die. And you have to be okay with losing people, because eventually, if you're true to yourself, you will attract people who will find your voice. So if you are wearing a mask, knowing it doesn't really serve you anymore, but you cannot stay there in this comfort zone, right? The only way for us to evolve and grow, and we are wired for that as a human species, is to evolve. And you have to be okay with not being liked, and you have to be okay with losing people.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Brainwashed To Be Broke series. Today's guest is a true example of turning pain into purpose. She's a resilient coach, mental health advocate, and founder of a healing framework that helps people rebuild after trauma and loss. After facing war, divorce, and the tragic loss of her sister, she is now leading global project in suicide prevention and launching a mental health center in Chile. Excited to have her here today. Welcome to the show, Roxy Hops. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Anna, for introduction. It's a very, one thing is when I introduce myself, another thing, and it's very humbling when somebody else is introducing me. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to have you here. I have prepared so many questions, and it's going to be amazing to hear your story and so on. But when we are talking about story, let give us a little bit of your background, where you coming from, how you started, what led you to do that, and so on.
Well, it's actually a very long story. I'll try to be more concise. I am actually originally from Russia. I grew up in St. Petersburg, but I left Russia when I was 17. At the 15, I left. I won an English competition. I left the US, and when I came back, the doors were open for me. I decided to leave Russia and to explore the world. It was a very interesting experience, because everything we knew where outside of Russia was only from the movies. But I guess because of my curiosity and ambition, generally, I just took me places. So I'm from Russia, but I've been traveling around the world for and working remotely for many years, and really built a quite successful traditional career in a corporate world, and tried it all. I've had 10 years in marketing, and in operations, ran my own digital agency with my ex, had a really good education, got married early. And then, but you know what, eventually life happens, right? And in the past 3 years, life took unexpected turns for me, and I have faced a series of very, very profound losses, and including a very difficult separation and divorce from a person I really loved. And then the impact of Russian and Ukrainian war, because half of my family is in Ukraine and another half is in Russia. And really, the ongoing conflict is still affecting a lot, both sides of my family. And my brothers had to leave Russia, give up everything just not to go to war. And then it has been really difficult, challenging times for me because I actually ended up in a foreign country completely alone, with no connections, no job, no money, with no language, no friends, and with a broken heart. I didn't really know, with no clear direction. And then I started kind of rebuilding myself through different neuroscience techniques, mindfulness techniques, and really try to build myself back up and rise from the ashes, so to speak. And then last year, my little sister committed suicide, which was a completely new and harder, more devastating event that I have ever faced in my life. And at that point, I was thinking, why me? Why me? Why it kept happening to me again and again and again, and really in a short period of time. I faced very profound losses and difficulty being in a foreign country, trying to rebuild myself as a refugee, as a Russian refugee in Latin America. And then while we are all going through this, my family, me personally, through a very difficult chapter of my life, my little sister at the age of 22 took her life, which was completely shattered me, and I'm still in a grieving process. But this moment, these kind of things that they made me realize this is not for something. I started digging into more purpose, in finding the meaning behind everything, and eventually I decided to quit my corporate work job and completely turn my trajectory of my life and turn into mission-driven, purpose-driven ventures. And now I am actually involved in multiple projects around the world. I am a resilience coach. I coach people through trauma around the world, helping them overcome their difficult chapters, to rise back, to find meaning, to find having all the tools, neuroscience, mindfulness, to get back up. I'm also running different initiatives around the world for people sharing stories where they turn pain to purpose, where they turn setbacks into success. And I am a mental health advocate. This year, I am launching a center, a community here in Latin America and Chile, which is going to focus on preventive programs for children and teenagers from ages 6 to 24, because I really, having faced all this firsthand with my sister, know how having a conversation about mental health and struggles and giving young people a voice and understanding that they are heard and seen and understood, and equipping them with these tools, is how we can heal them and eventually reduce suicides in the world.
So powerful, and you are so brave person. It's really really powerful story. And lots of people have to hear this, because you know, always there is a purpose always behind everything. And yeah, would happen to your sister, probably it wouldn't be led you to what you would be doing now, what you can do now for others, and how you can help others. And I would like to ask you, like, what led you to actually, in the first place, leave the country, and like, what was the purpose of it for you? Like, what you expected from leaving the country? Was there something, like, you know, from when you've been raised with your, like, you know, the original way? Was there something that you've been missing, or have you been looking for something different?
Well, I think there's a few things that I want to mention here, because it's not like one answer, right? Why a person, especially a young person? I left at 15 for a year, and then I came back, and in 1 year I left forever, right? I think there is a couple of things. First, yes, personality. I was always curious. I wanted to see what's out there. I was really didn't want to be like conditioned and like held back by my society, by my country, by my upbringing, by my family. Like I really knew that everything is up to me. It's not like family I live in. I think if I am to build a successful life, it's up to me. My locus of control is very eternal. I don't ever blame or complain about external, and I think that's something that propelled me into having a success in life.
Yes.
But I think there is also something very personal. I don't know if maybe a little percentage of your audience would relate. When you grow up in a certain country or a certain surrounding with certain paradigms, and maybe you feel instinctually that you are not really relating with them, that you don't really belong here. I felt almost like, yes, I grew up there, but I never really resonated with Russia. I did with culture and literature and music and all the beautiful parts of Russian culture, but I really didn't resonate with politics, with system, with certain kind of norms, maybe certain authoritarian gender norms, and I kind of, apart from certain, of course, drama within a family, we all have drama within a family. And I think at that point, it was my way of escaping from that, because yes, I was curious, but I don't know, I've talked with a few people, and they say, like, there are certain ways how we are kind of personally wired for survival. And maybe at that time, I didn't realize it. It was very many, many years ago, but it was my way of like not like protecting my peace, like trying to be somewhere else, while being there, but still kind of, I will go explore the world and travel and all that, but kind of like, I don't want to associate with that, because I don't think I belong here. So it's kind of a personal touch to this. So yes, and it's one part is curiosity and me wanted to see what's out there. I always do that. And another thing is instinctually escaping certain paradigms that I didn't really resonate with.
Why you decided to go for for entrepreneurship? Was it before or like from your young age that you wanted to build something your own, or it was like when actually was the turning point that actually led you to, start entrepreneurship? Because entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not an easy journey. There is so many upside downs. It's always you need it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? Like it's so many things you need to learn, so many skills you need to develop. Yeah, why entrepreneurship?
I actually always been super active with entrepreneurial spirit, I guess.
Hmm.
At my school, I think like in environment wise, yes, I think that I didn't know it when I was a teenager, but I
Hmm.
already had this kind of like cues that, oh, I want to start something on my own. I was always quite a extroverted person and kind
Hmm.
of being with friends. And but then when I joined university, for example, I started really seeing I was very lucky to get into environment with people that were pretty like ambitious and like A
Mm.
players, like high achievers. And I
Mm.
was like, am I
Interesting.
worse? No. So of course I started like learning and saying like, oh, but I always had that kind of a thing and I wanted to be involved in everything. And then in university I got to all the clubs. I got into TEDx organizing team. I was a student government. I was in musicals. I was in outdoors club. I was like
Mm.
everywhere on
High
campus.
performing all
So
the time. Mm.
and we had some kind of challenges for entrepreneurs. So I already started at 17 developing this kind of thing that I want to start doing things, I want to do things, and lucky to have been around surrounded by people who, I always try to put myself in a room where I'm the least smart, or at least where I can have, or where
Potential
always
growth.
to
Uh-huh.
grow, right? Because I am really like a personal growth junkie, professional growth junkie.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love
Mm-hmm.
learning and evolving. And so I always had this kind of like entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met my ex-husband, and he was an entrepreneur, and
Mm.
he
Okay.
he he was already in the startup world. So I had a
Mm-hmm.
job at the time, but I already
Mm-hmm.
started getting kind of involved in entrepreneurial hangouts, and
Mm-hmm.
as a partner. And at that time already I knew I want to start my coaching. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like we lived in Berlin. It was in like 2017.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
So already then I knew I wanted to do coaching. But
Mm-hmm.
look, it's now to 2025, right? So I already knew, that I wanted to be a coach, and I started developing certain programs, but for entrepreneurs, and I was like, as an entrepreneurial wife, I will like help people, like wives of entrepreneurs with like time management and all that. Like I already had that,
Yeah.
but then life took turns, right? And we got to travel. Then there was a pandemic, and like I just continued. Oh no, actually, we did start our own company, our own agency as a couple running it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had a
Mm-hmm.
marketing agency and we run 14 people around the globe as a couple so it was already kind of like I from that merged into entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And then when everything collapsed in my world, I was forced to go back into corporate because I
Mm-hmm.
found myself in a foreign country with no connections, with no job, with a broken heart. With I needed to rebuild my life from zero.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the to the workforce just because I needed to to find certain kind of a safety net for
Mm-hmm.
me to get to entrepreneurship, right? Because as entrepreneurs, that's why I'm a resilience coach now. I also work with entrepreneurs because as entrepreneurs, we will face a bunch of setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to take a few steps back to advance even further, right? And so when life happened with my separation, my divorce, when I lost everything, I had to go back to work because I knew that I am meant for entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that it's part of the process
Mm-hmm.
to take the setback and then turn that setback into a fuel for or opportunity for further growth.
So when you've been doing marketing, you've been providing services for marketing or like for local businesses, or have you been doing, what was the starting point? Like what was the type of the business what was your first one actually when you started? So it was like,
So for me, with my personal, actually, no, I also had another business. I started a more of like, so there are two things simultaneous, right? We as a couple ran a digital marketing agency providing marketing service for tech clients around the world.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, I started something which is my passion. I love marketing, but I do believe that you need to have a certain like thing that really drives you to
Mm-hmm.
to like continue with that. And at that time, I started my business, I guess, as a influencer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
In those times,
That's what
there
I
were
wanted to ask because I know from our talk that you've been growing up your social media as influencer and so on. So how did you get into that, and what have you been actually doing with that?
Right. So, as I said, I was always kind of like curious and maybe one of a like I'm very like more of a multi-passionate entrepreneur because I have a lot of passions and I'm also like to start a business and like build a system and pass it out to someone and start the next business and and I just like because I love creativity and
Yeah.
launching things. So influencer, because in 2017 it was like starting out. Like
Mhm.
right now it's quite difficult to grow on social media, to be honest, because the market is so saturated and
Mhm.
it's difficult to you need to really stand out. But then in back in the day it was very like people would use pods like you like and I like, you comment and I will comment, and algorithm
Yeah, yeah.
quite simple. And I started my passion. I really liked wine. So I
Mhm.
started actually learning. We lived in Germany, which was in a world of wine, and I grew up my expertise as a wine expert. And I got certified in wine service and wine making in wine enology. And I
Mhm.
started blogging. I
Mhm.
started doing certain kind of activities around wine. I
Mhm.
became pretty known around the world in that niche. I know it's like a Gary Vaynerchuk who also started with wine. But
Yeah, very, very
I
interesting. Yeah, I
yeah,
like when I heard his story first time, that was like, really? He started with wines? I didn't know
right.
that, and it was really interesting to actually see because this is like it's pretty unusual to like see somebody because most of the people, especially in this type at this time, everybody's doing like coaching, course creators, providing different type of services, and and you can
And I did
start.
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah,
And
go
that's
ahead.
So it was like a passion thing,
Yeah.
right? We were really having a good, successful lifestyle business,
Hmm.
allowed us to travel around the world. We had good tech clients around the world, but at the same time, I wanted to do something that I really loved. And it's
Hmm.
not that I had alcoholism or anything, because when you are in the wine industry and you have so much alcohol, like access to this, you usually
Hmm.
don't really drink that much. It's more like you go to taste and then or exams, and you would like only choose something very rare, or you
Hmm.
go to some fairs that you only buy a kind of like a rare bottle, right?
Hmm.
Rare collection. So I just also kind of, it's not they don't care much, but to change a little bit of a perception of people like, oh, these wines was they're just like drink.
Hmm.
No, it's not actually most of the time. And I had exactly the same routine, maybe drinking only Friday and Saturday, and
Hmm.
having a routine and doing sports during the week. I had many years in CrossFit as well. Like I was
Hmm.
very into
Hmm.
sports,
Hmm.
into healthy, like green smoothies. So I
Hmm.
don't believe like this kind of thing cannot coexist with this thing. I think everything is a balance.
Hmm.
But it was kind of very something that I approach everything as a science project, and wine was that kind of interesting thing. But as you can see, my audience was really into this kind of things,
Hmm.
in leisure, into dining, into
Hmm.
wine, fine
Hmm.
wine, and
So
and
that's
learning
how
about it.
how you build the brand basically, or the
Yeah.
influence
I
on
had
social. Okay.
Yes, and I had my own brand. I was called Wine Rocks. And my name
Hmm.
was Wine Rocks was like really
Yeah, that's
very
awesome.
kind
Yeah.
of famous, right? And then when all these things happened 3 years ago, I had to pivot
Hmm.
because I changed. I had a personal challenges with divorce, with me being in a foreign country, rebuilding life from scratch, kind of as a phoenix,
Hmm.
And alcohol was just not part of it. And I
No.
was really in a trauma situation that I needed to cry and process and rewire my brain, and I needed to think how I can move forward from this. And I am an intelligent human being, at least I believe so. And I knew that alcohol is not a healthy coping mechanism, and that doesn't really serve me in this moment. So I started really doing less of this. And kind of also, as I was healing myself, I started coaching, helping
Hmm.
people overcome trauma and divorce and adversity. And obviously, my focus started shifting.
Hmm.
And eventually I did, which is a very scary thing for entrepreneurs, announce yourself as
Hmm.
someone else, especially
Hmm.
if people for years know you in a certain space. For me, it was terrifying. How I'm
Hmm.
going to announce that I'm not in, but eventually entrepreneurship is risk. It's
Hmm.
bravery.
Hmm.
It's a courage. If you want to succeed, you have to take the steps even when they are comfortable. So I announced myself. I said, thank you for being with me all these years, but now I am it's evolution of a human being, and I announced that now I'm coaching. Of course, I lost a portion of my following because they just didn't resonate with this. Over time, I was losing it. But I do believe that you have to be true to you, and you have to be okay with losing people, because eventually if you're true to yourself, you will attract people who will find your voice, and it's eventually authenticity and being true to yourself. This is eventually how it is. So if you are wearing a mask and knowing it doesn't really serve you anymore, but you cannot stay there in this comfort zone, right? The only way for us to evolve and grow, and we are wired for that as human species,
Yeah.
is to evolve. And you have to be okay with not being liked, and you have to be okay with losing people, with losing relationship, losing likes.
Mm.
And yeah, and me, who grew up in that world of influencers and like, fake validation, it was quite a difficult journey, but eventually I overcame that and really stopped seeking validation. And it took me, after that, it just took off.
Mhm.
Once I stopped needing validation.
I would love to ask you more about like how did you actually deal with haters and so on. Like, because, when you are a public figure, especially when you have some following and influence, it's usually like people are scared to actually build this type of like being an influencer or being an expert, like somebody who is actually having authority out there, because they are scared of, for example, being judged by others, that they are going to be, there's going to be haters anyway. Like everybody has a haters, and I would say that this is like that if you don't have haters, you are not doing the right job, right? But before we're gonna go to this topic, I want to ask you, what was for you the realization that when you figure out that the corporate job is not actually the thing that's going to bring you success in your life? What was it for you when you realized that?
I am a big dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big visualizer of my future. I have a huge, many, many plans for my life and many, many businesses I will start. So when I know that I'm that ambitious person, unstoppable person, especially unstoppable, I'm saying it because I was had that kind of like predisposition before, but I had to go through darkest times to really become resilient and not giving a crap what people think about me, because I lost my sister,
Mm-hmm.
and who are you to tell me if I'm right or wrong? Have you been through stuff I've been to?
Mm-hmm.
And then when that's how I became unstoppable, right? And if I know I have ambition, I am unstoppable, I can achieve anything. Remember, my lottos of control is it's all up to me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
responsible if I want success in life. It's not somebody's coming to save me. I'm not the person who will like, wait to get married with a rich guy. Like I'm like I'm me. I'm whole. I really want. I have a lot of things to look forward. And when I go through this and I see the corporate job, and I'm like, I mean, I'm good at my corporate job. I have really 10 years of experience, great curriculum, great education. But I'm like, I have so many dreams of mine. And like, the best time to start was yesterday. The second time is now.
Mm-hmm.
So I already started, planning, like I knew that I'm not made for corporate. I knew I'm not made for, and that sometimes I think entrepreneurs, they
Mm-hmm.
know they're meant for, they know, but it's just so scary, as you said, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how long? Like time is ticking, especially when I lost my sister. I'm like, there was something happened after her death that I was like, time is running out, time is running out. Like I was grieving, I was crying, I was in depression, I was like really hurt. And I'm like, I can die tomorrow, because when you face death so close, you know that tomorrow is not guaranteed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here in the corporate job and I'm looking at the computer and I don't see anything, and that moment I was like, I have so many dreams. Why instead of building my dream, because time is not guaranteed, I may die tomorrow, I'm building someone else's dream and not even getting paid well, like I'm like, what I'm doing, so I actually start getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning before my 9 o'clock that I have to go to office, and start doing stuff. I start reaching out to people, start doing my landing pages, everything. And then after 5 o'clock, I started doing the same, learning something, reading something, because I knew I need to plan. So, and I think people start kind of seeing, especially in social media, it's never add your coworkers or your bosses on your social media.
Mm-hmm.
They started like, oh, Roxy is like doing something on the side,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I started getting a little bit of vibes at work, but I already knew, I knew, it's actually, I even put the date to leave on October, and I left, uh, maybe even October, and I left October the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, not like that. Like I already knew that I wanted to like start building my own thing, but when my sister died, I think that I just like said, that's enough. That's
Mm-hmm.
enough. I need to, and because also it was like merged kind of naturally into me helping healing the world
Mhm.
because I was healing myself. And I found that I'm like a natural coach. I love that people start saying how they love working with me, how
Mhm.
they resonate, how, how they also been through this trauma and they feel like they really, like it's one thing go to therapy. Now I think person who has personally experienced something like that, through like divorce or loss of a sibling, or it's another type of connection. So, but I'm really feeling fulfilled now. Never
Mm.
in my life felt so fulfilled as I feel right now.
No, yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for sharing all of that because this is you know it's just it's not easy to talk about these type of things, and I really appreciate you to sharing that. Now let's answer the question about what would you say to somebody that is having some second thoughts or about actually like uh, going out there and being becoming an influencer, and how you deal with haters and people who just are there and trying to push you down even though you are trying your best.
Yeah, it's a great question because a lot of people really want to become an influencer for different reasons, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
people just want fame to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people to be more popular. Some people want to have more money. Um, I do believe in such saturated market right now, the most people who are most successful are people who stand for something.
Mm-hmm.
People who are really true to their calling, to their mission, to their deep why. So if you just want to become an influencer, I don't think that you will probably get something if you really hustle every day and night and put a bunch of money into it, but you will never really stand out as much if you have your own voice,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have your own like something that really drives you every single day, even when things are not working out, you have doubt creeping,
Mm-hmm.
haters saying all these things. So
Mm-hmm.
the most people who stand out, who are most successful, they are standing for something because they have a deeper purpose. They have a deeper meaning and different thing that drives them. And if you want to become an influencer, you want to, you have to really probably shed all those things aside, like popularity, likes, validation, vanity metrics and all that, and really understand what is your deep purpose and meaning and calling, your deep why you want, what kind of message you want to deliver,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of message you want to, how do you want to help with this message that you want, like how you want to influence, right? Influence eventually you want to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you need one person or two or three in influencing them in a positive way, you're already an influencer. That's
Mm-hmm.
why it's really important to really focus on the meaning, the message, and how you want to positively impact your audience. And if you have that, and at some point, you probably again be okay with people reacting negatively or maybe not resonating with some people. If your reason why is strong enough, you will rise back from adversity, from comments, and I think the most successful people, they are driven by purpose and by something of contribution.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't really be egocentric. It shouldn't be I receive, 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 receive.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus on providing value, if you
Mm-hmm.
focus on giving,
Mm-hmm.
contributing in a wellness and positivity and any kind of resource or knowledge, and you contribute, you will eventually start attracting people who receive value from you.
Mm-hmm.
And all the haters, what other people will say will not matter because you're true to yourself. You know that you're impacting people. And most of the happiest people in the world, they are somehow connected their purpose, their career, their path with giving to others. If you give to others, then whatever, because if you give to others, you're already operating from the point of love and connection and contribution and humanity and
Mm-hmm.
collective consciousness. And when you're operating on these high vibrations, if somebody, a hater, comes to you and says negative thing, you approach him with love because it speaks more of him than of you, because you know what you stand up, you know that you're providing value, you are giving kindness and love, understanding and the resources, knowledge, whatever you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody attacks you, I usually just wish them peace. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm not usually trying to say like, oh, you must be feeling bad, about
Mm-hmm.
yourself. I'm just saying like, I'm wishing you all the light and healing,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're giving me a hateful comment, like you don't even know me. Like, I don't take these comments and even actually physical things. Like if I'm going there are always social occasions when, high vibrational people, they attract this kind of like, you
Mm-hmm.
irritate toxic people. And you're like, oh, who should, like, like, I know that, certain people have that kind of a effect, and I don't even know why they're, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
just happy and friendly and loving with everyone. But I do receive that, and I know that this has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people who are starting out, they have a fear of rejection. We all have
Mm-hmm.
fears of rejection, of not acceptance or not being validated because we're wired. If somebody says something negative, know that if you're true to yourself and you're authentic
Mm-hmm.
and you stand for something, authenticity is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not authentic, you will not like yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You'll be like, no, it's not me really. We all
Mm-hmm.
deep inside know, inside
Mm-hmm.
or not, because you have this kind of calling of a soul. So
Mm-hmm.
for everybody who is starting, like, give them love. No, it has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Be true to your calling, to your message, to your contribution, to your value. It stands for something, and then you will become, sorry, unfuckwithable, because
Mm-hmm.
eventually you will create this energetic field around you that no matter if the hate I receive, anger I receive, I just give you love and compassion and
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and this changes everything.
I heard about some influencer was saying that those people, those haters, usually comment on your post or doing like this type of things because they are seeing the things that missing in them, in you, and they are just jealous, basically, because of that, right?
It's definitely because what irritates us in other people is what we are missing in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
or irritates that you know that you want to say it, but you don't have the guts to say it, and that
Mm-hmm.
person is saying it,
Mm-hmm.
and it irritates the crap out of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Um, what was your relationship with money when you started? And what was your education about money when you started? Like when
I
you've
am.
been, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I grew up in the post-Soviet times in 90s in Russia after collapse of the Soviet Union, and I unfortunately wasn't raised to the magnate oligarchs of Russia. I grew up in a average middle class family. We actually did have some quite hard times when we didn't have much to money, and didn't have money was hard. Because in post-Soviet times and in Russia in general, even though my family is in higher education,
Mhm,
but we did go through ups and downs in the 90s, and I was luckily raised in a family where values were never materialistic.
mm,
My mother is absolutely angel in that sense, because she raised us, me and my brother and sister, with strong values of kindness and love and contribution, and very heroic in a way stances
mm,
that even like don't marry for money, like don't ever lose your integrity or something like that. And know that happiness is money cannot buy happiness. And so we kind of grew up with that kind of mentality that we shouldn't really be impressed, by
mhm,
money.
mhm,
But of course, times were difficult. So especially in the times, I like to say, why Eastern European millennials hustle so much is because we were born in communism, raised in capitalism, and we will die of alcoholism.
Yeah, that's good.
Because
Yeah.
eventually we did grow up in this, but then eventually, Russia moved into this capitalistic
Mhm,
system,
mm,
right? In the 90s. So we were like, oh, we need to start businesses. We started making money, and the hustle and merit-based system is all showed us that we need to make something out of
mm,
ourselves
mm,
to have a successful life.
mm.
And
You know what is
and
really
so
yeah, do you know what is really interesting for me? That especially in like European countries, there is not many people who are talking about money, publicly, like sharing their opinions, or because most of the most of the knowledge about money I got from USA, right? Or Australia, because those people are willing to talk publicly about money. But I heard something about that, when we've been occupied and so on, like, it was when, during the Second World War, basically everybody who had a some type of wealth, they had to be quiet because if not, the wealth could be taken from them.
that's a
So,
limiting
and that's
belief.
limiting belief, I would say, totally.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the pieces, like what is missing over here, and why we see there is like in Europe countries there are not many leaders. If you could see like publicly people who are sharing their um like their stories and like being like trying to be influencers, like because I those people who I most of the time know are from US, and like how I said, because that's how I got into business. uh but yeah, back to the money piece.
I
So
actually want to
go
I
ahead.
just want to comment on what you said,
Hmm.
because I Absolutely, because we grew up in a culture where also certain limiting beliefs within my family as well were like, it's we cannot afford this, or money is hard to make, you need to hustle so much, or it's just generation. We just generation, we don't, or money is in US, everybody is they live a different life because they are avoiding taxes, or they are like thieves. So again, limiting beliefs. Money is evil. It's hard to make money.
Are you religion, actually? Are you religion? Do you believe in God or
I believe in creator, God, universe, everything. I believe in higher power. I don't know it. So but again, now I'm studying a lot of money psychology as well, because I work with some people because I'm a neuroscience, I'm helping clients rewire limiting belief to more empowering beliefs. And money things topics come a lot because poor people and rich people, they think completely differently, right? And it is a neuroplasticity. You can actually rewire your brain to believe that, money is easy. I'm a money magnet, money flows easily to me. And if but people mostly like live in this fear-based of like, money is hard. I don't deserve don't deserve money, or money is evil. Or another one comes a lot. If we have a lot of money, we are taking a lot from others. It's or fear of success because of that, right? But it's all limiting beliefs, because money eventually just amplifies who you are. It amplifies. You can be a good person with money, do good things with money. You can be a bad person and do bad things with money. I see money as a vessel of contribution and making impactful projects around the world, and donating to charities of my cause, of my choice. Like I see money as something good. And the more money I have, the more I can heal the world and help change this world. So I don't see, and I don't believe that money is only coming from bad sources and you need to lie your way up to the top. No, but I have worked a lot with a lot of my limiting beliefs around money, because I grew up in an environment where, yes, money is evil, money is bad, it's all corruption. And I grew up in one of the most corrupt countries in the world, right? So it's like, of course, we grew up with this thinking that, I still have a lot of friends, or at least people who I knew from my past, acquaintances, that are like, we are anti-money, we're just going to be poor because for the stance of being like anti-money, and it's a little bit like so I think that, and I see it globally with a lot of clients, with a lot of people I talk with. Everybody has limiting beliefs about money. So I think that's our way to really talk more about this and say that there is nothing wrong with money. Money is just a tool. It's just a tool and if you're a good person, you will do good with money. If you're a bad person, you will do bad things with money.
Yeah, so powerful. Do you think that there is a reason why they are not teaching us money in school?
You talk about like European countries?
I think in any country, it's pretty much
I do believe they
everywhere.
should.
Say again.
I think I do believe they should, because actually, the sooner you learn financial education, the better.
But do you think there is a reason for that they don't?
Like there is a control system?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Like to speculate. I think there are definitely yeah, I believe there are certain, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think that somebody in the Ministry of Education is sitting like, should we do this or should we not? I think that they just don't think that I think there is impact of it. I think that maybe if somebody would propose like we should include this, majority will say no, because they would think that there is more competition, right? And people are competitive by nature, and they wouldn't want everybody to know about financial literacy and everything. So most people will, if they are interested, they themselves will go and buy books, and they will like try to study stock market and everything. But I don't think that people would be like.
Do you in especially in Europe, or I don't know, in Russia, I don't know if when you are studying, for example, high degree, or you're going to uni or so, do you have to pay for for studying in your country when you want to study uni or so?
So we do have school. I mean, you talk about university, right? Not about high school.
Higher education.
Yes, higher education is it depends. We have some of the best students go with scholarships based on their results, based on their academic success, passing of the exams, the intellectual abilities. and then you can pay your way as well
Hmm.
to pay for, especially actually quite expensive for if we compare like the salaries in Russia, it's
Hmm.
quite expensive,
Hmm.
because generally the economical situation is not so strong,
Hmm.
and uh, I don't think we have the same problem as US has in terms of like everybody is in debt, because
Yeah.
we do have maybe more people. It's not as I think that as common as in US to take debt and then paid for the
Hmm.
next 30 years of your life,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's more of the English-speaking country. So it's in England is the same, Australia is the same, and in USA is the same. They usually have this type of debt, students' loans and so on that they have to go with if they study some higher education. Uh, but also, this type of thing. This is not just only one like thing that you will have to like use or borrow money for. When you want to start your family, you will have to get probably mortgage because if you are not in from rich family, you will have to have some type of, some down payment or something for sure to actually or pay the house that you're going to live. And didn't you think that like the whole system right from the young age is basically set it up for us to make us or keep us poor and obedient and easy to control, actually going to because everything especially in the world is more like everything is working around money, don't you like it's like if you don't have money you can have proper healthcare. If you don't have money, you don't have you won't be able to buy certain things that you need for your normal life, right? Um, so for me, it's like it's that was when I realized that this is like all the system from the young age. It's basically designed to actually being a failure. I was like, this is not how I'm going to live. I'm going to completely escape from there, and I'm going to build, successful life using my own power and being entrepreneur and being able to do good for others. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I do believe maybe there's some truth to it. I'm lately not like going much into conspiracy theories, but I heard a couple of theories like that. I'm still doing my research around that.
Mhm.
My personal idea is that we still, no matter circumstances, even if you found yourself in the matrix, in
Mhm.
the system, it's up to you to make something of yourself.
Mhm.
Remember, the piece of iron is like $3, and then it can be like this thing, and it can be $300,000 watch.
Right.
So the value of you is really up to you. Like
Mhm.
if you can, I mean, I don't want to blame, maybe it's true,
Mhm.
but I don't want to blame the system or the country I grew up in because we don't choose these things or family we grew up in, right? But what really I can control is my response to
Totally.
circumstances. And that's why I support you, what you're saying. I don't want to
Mhm.
have this. So even though I found myself in this situation, it's up to me to make something out of myself.
Mhm.
Well, how can I get into personal growth, first of all?
Mhm.
Work on myself, right? Warren Buffett said the biggest investment that he's done, the best one, is in himself. So
Mhm.
if you can work on yourself first, not blame this and system and education and government and politics, you know, okay, you can be born and there are heroic situations where people were born in very difficult, challenging situations and they still made something of themselves.
Mhm.
So the grit and determination and ambition and standing for something,
Mhm.
these things you should develop. You
Mhm.
should evolve all the time. That's why if you're not growing, you're dying.
Mhm.
So in that
That's
sense, I'm
powerful.
really thankful for this like digital education space, coaching podcast, we should be super grateful for advances in internet around the world now because we can educate ourselves and we can become from rags to riches.
Mhm.
We can become rich, even though we didn't, grow up in the best circumstances.
Mhm.
You can rewire your limiting beliefs from
Mhm.
things that around money to something more empowering so you can make money. It's up to you,
Yeah.
but you have to be aware that it's up to you. Nobody's coming to save you.
Mhm. Yeah, so powerful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that because that was pretty much I think we're good to wrap up because it's time also. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing all these thoughts and knowledge from you. Where people can find you or support support you along the way. Yeah.
Sure, I will just share it with you. Maybe you can do it in the show notes and share all my socials or my website as well. And just happy to be in touch or just to get on a call if anybody wants to just brainstorm and chat and
Amazing.
collaborate or just have a virtual coffee. Happy to connect with people around the world.
Amazing. And for
Thank you so
everyone who's
much.
listening, if this stirs something in you, don't ignore it. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, you weren't born to follow the script. You were born to be free. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Adam.